Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Sunday gathering, June 21st, 2026. It's good to be with you guys this morning. I hope you're doing well. So good to see you guys in the chat. Let me just say some good mornings. Alvin, it's good to see you. Rick, Patriot. Let's see, who else? Linda and Gabriel. Soon Gabriel will join us, right? Who else we got? I think I said Alvin, Chrissy, Karen. It's good to see you guys. Who else? Right now, that's who I see in the chat. And if I missed anybody, please tell me. But it's good to be with you guys again. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. I hope you're doing well. I just realized that my chat is not showing. I don't understand why. Swear. My technology is giving me fits this morning. Let me just fix this real quick. Why is it doing that? I think there's some problem, but that's okay. We'll get it all sorted out. I think I will forego the welcome message this morning. It's good to see all you guys. Red Raven, it's good to see you. I think you missed it last time, but it's good to be back. You said you saw the Shroud of Turin experience? That sounds amazing. I would definitely enjoy that. Very cool. Well, why don't we go ahead and this morning we will start. Good morning, West Wind. I see you there. Gay Marie, it's good to see you. Joanne, Asinal, now you're coming out of the woodwork. Laura, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Why don't we go ahead and get started with our prayer time this morning. And that'll get us going. And then we can get started with whatever it is we're going to do today. I have a couple topics in mind, and Patriot, you mentioned one, but first let's talk about prayer. What kind of prayer requests do you have? What do you want to share with us? If you want, put your comments in the chat, and we will pray for you this week. Real McCoy, good morning. Good to see you. Right. Yeah, so go ahead and put your prayer requests in the chat. We'll scrape those up. We'll pray for you, and I'll go ahead and bow my head, say a little prayer for this morning, and we can get started today. It's good to see you guys. Father in heaven, I thank you so much for this time. I thank you for the day that you've given. Thank you for a time to celebrate and think about fathers. And as Chrissy already said in the chat, Lord, you are the Father that is the model for all fathers everywhere. And I just pray that the fathers here today will hear that, Lord, and think about you and think about, how can we change our lives to be more like you in the way we relate to the people around us, our families that depend on us. Lord, help us to be the thing they can depend on the same way that you are the thing we can depend on. We want to model that, Lord. We thank you so much for this time. Please guide me as I officiate this church gathering this morning, and help us find truths and good lessons from your scriptures and the writings that godly men, Christian men, have given us through the centuries. And we thank you so much for the time. It's in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, who reigns on the throne beside you in heaven right now, that we pray. Amen. All right, guys, thank you so much. Patriot, mention your friends and family that are more or less lukewarm about Christ and their walk. So let's definitely pray about that type of stuff this week. Amen. All right. As you can see, Raven, we missed you. It's good to have you back, you and your husband. Glad you're back. Good to see you, Stacia. How are you? Happy Father's Day. Tell your hubby, Happy Father's Day. Well, yeah, I just, I thought I'd start today with something. It's kind of neat. I wanted to show you guys something that God showed us this morning at my house, which I thought was amazing. Let me see if I can get it for you real quick. You'll just bear with me. So each morning, and it's apropos for Father's Day. You guys know that I moved recently, and at the new house, we generally sit outside on the back porch each morning. I get up, and my dad is usually he's an early riser. He's already out on the back porch having his coffee. And so I go out there and sit with them, and we just, drink our coffee and shoot the breeze. But this morning we had a special treat, and that's what I wanted to share with you this morning. Maybe this is a Father's Day treat, but this occurred, and I wanted you guys to be able to see what we saw out there. You see that? I snapped that photo this morning. My father and I were sitting outside. We had a rainbow across the entire sky. And so it was a fun thing to talk about on this Father's Day as we sat out there with our coffee, and we saw this rainbow. And I can't even remember the last time I saw a rainbow, to be frank with you. I mean, I told you guys, I've mentioned it, that I used to live in the Nashville area, and I do remember seeing a rainbow every now and then, but this one was spectacular. It was one of the best I've seen in a long time. And it just, made me grateful to God for the things he's done, and the fact that nobody else can put a rainbow in the sky, can they? And my dad and I were speculating about, what really causes them to form, and, is the science accurate? Does this have something to do with the shape of the firmament? We mentioned that, something we talk about occasionally. The fact that it's always this beautiful arch, and kind of follows the shape of what we understand the firmament to look like, So that seems interesting and appropriate. But yeah, God gave us that little treat this morning. So thank you, Lord. It was beautiful. But other than that, there's a few things that we can talk about. I have released a new Psy-Cry video, and that video is this. It's called "Who Will You Follow?" And it is, I now see what's going on with my chat. I think I'll just turn the chat off. But this new video is released on the Psy-Cry channel on multiple platforms. It's on YouTube and BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble. But I had fun, putting this together last night as I was, relaxing after a day, a week of work and everything. But this is how I relax, is sometimes to put these videos together. This one particularly talks about a song that the rock band Evanescence released this year. A very interesting song that seems to speak to our condition, the current state of the world, so to speak. And so I felt like I needed to put this video together to talk about that. That's what this is all about. So maybe you guys, if you're interested in that kind of thing, Evanescence is one of those bands. Of course, they had that hit, Bring Me to Life, that was in, I think it was 2007 or 2004. It was way back now, so that's 20 years ago. And then for them to come out after this long with something like this is quite interesting. I think it's notable, and that's why I did the video, because the symbolism was very clean and important, powerful, and I think it's something that speaks to our time right now. So anyway, there is that is out there for you guys if you're interested. What else? I have done some research this week on the upcoming Rapture video. If I spell it right. My upcoming Rapture video, I was doing some study on that this week, and I almost got it ready. I will just say, I almost have it ready. But it has blossomed into I think going to be a really interesting video. So I've mentioned before, the reason I'm doing this is because I haven't really talked about the rapture much for a long time. Some of my very earliest videos, I was questioning the rapture narrative that's taught by most churches and Christians these days, or has been. And so this prompted me to do this video. And then Linda, actually, you were asking me about the rapture. I think you've been talking to some friends, trying to explain to them maybe the problems with the current rapture theory that goes around in Christian circles. And this video is going to be one that I will enjoy watching back. It's going to be really good. Oh, there's some things I've found as I've been researching that I'm going to go over in this video. I'm going to talk about things like this, that is, a common way that people view rapture theology, right? Rapture eschatology. They have this view of the church age, and then that's what we're in now, they say, right? And then the next thing they see coming is this rapture thing where Christians just vanish off the earth. There's been multiple movies made about this. In fact, I even found a couple movies that you might be surprised. There's these movies called A Thief in the Night from 1972. And then a sequel to that movie called A Distant Thunder, which was a few years later. And they're the original movies that were shown to me as a child when they wanted to talk to us teenagers about rapture theory, right? They wanted to show us what's going to be like on earth after everybody vanishes because of the rapture, if that's actually going to happen, right? But that's the kind of thing that I'm going to have in this video. We're going to talk about those movies and what impact they had on Christianity, right? Movies showing Christians who have become Christians after the rapture running from the authorities of the UN, trying to keep from being beheaded by guillotine. That kind of thing was being talked about in the 70s. Oh, and thank you so much for the gift that you just gave there. I think it's candy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. but anyway, this rapture video is going to be really cool. Here's another thing that I'm going to have, not only talking about these current theories that Christians have on what rapture means, but then another thing that I'm going to go into is this right here. Now, this is a literal page out of the Scofield Reference Bible. So you guys on this channel mostly know about the Scofield Bible and the impact it had on Christians in the early 20th century. It was released in 1917. And because of the way it did things, you see here in Genesis chapter 1 on this page that it has a huge amount of reference material at the bottom, commentary. It's not reference material, it's commentary. And because of the specific commentary given in this writing that was funded by Jews and published in the Oxford Press in England, you can imagine why those two groups would be working together to push the narratives that come out of this Bible. But because of this, it was actually quite unique. And even since the time of the Geneva Bible, there had not been another Bible that had this kind of commentary in it. So this is a very significant piece of the puzzle too. So when we talk about rapture in this video, we're going to have all those pieces to look at. It's going to be really good. I'm just excited about how the video is coming together. I had hoped that video would have been released before this live stream, but I couldn't do it all. And as you saw, I relaxed and I went over and did a Psy-Cry video last night, so I just had fun with that. But I'm going to get on this and finish this video shortly, and then it'll release early this week, I believe. So get ready for that. It'll be good. Yeah, you guys remember those movies, right? You remember A Thief in the Night and The Distant Thunder. You remember those movies. It's going to be wild to look at a couple clips from those movies. Yeah. Shown on movie projector against, if you guys were the same as me, you saw them, they would show them on projector against one of those cinder block walls, right? Because all the churches were made with those cinder block walls. So they'd find one of those big exterior walls that was all cinder block, and they would shine the projector up on there and play Thief in the Night for us. People running from the UN authorities and getting killed in the streets. Oh my goodness. It's crazy stuff. But anyway, so get ready for that. It'll be good. All right. What else have we got? I think that's about it on announcements. As you guys may have already guessed, I feel pretty comfortable now. The new house, the new setup, I've got all my stuff running. So I feel good. Live streams will be back to normal. I know that some of you guys asked about Bible reading. We had done the book of Enoch on Tuesday nights. I want to keep doing that. To answer your question, I want to keep doing the Bible readings on Tuesday nights. I will figure out what I want to read and then it will happen. But I know there's been some suggestions. I think one of the suggestions was the book of Jasher. And I thought about the book of Jasher. The issue for me with the book of Jasher is that it's such a huge writing. It's 70, 80 chapters, some odd chapters. It is long. It would take us a couple months to read through it at least. And some of the chapters are so big. And the reality is that story overlaps what the Bible says and what the book of Enoch says, which we of course just read. So I'm not sure I want to do the book of Jasher. I'm still deciding on what we're going to do, but I want to keep that time slot with you guys on Tuesday evenings to have our Bible readings or scripture readings, however you want to call it, together. I think that's important and fun, so I want to do that. But just know that I'm thinking about it, and I will get it back on the charts on the calendar here. So you'll hear something from me. Yeah, West Wind, you're right. Jasher's really long. Patriot, you recommend the Apocalypse of John. That's interesting. Maybe. Precurious, you say just go straight through the Bible, Genesis to Revelation. That'd be long. Yeah, Patriot, you say Ezra. So I already have the series I started on the visions of Ezra. So I think because of that, I won't do that as a reading. It would be harder for me because, the reason I'm doing those in a series where I research it is because I don't know if off the cuff I will know enough and be familiar enough with the writings of Esdras to comment very accurately on the visions that we're going to read in that writing. So that's why I don't think that I want to do that as the reading. I want to keep doing just segments, research videos on each vision that's in those writings. Chrissy, you mentioned Shepherd of Hermas. That's a good one. It's an interesting one that not many people read. And I think it has some very important things for the church to understand. That's an interesting comment. Yeah. West Wind, you mentioned Jude. Deanne, you ask, what are my thoughts on the book of Nicodemus? Just briefly to say, without doing that as a whole segment here, I think the Gospel of Nicodemus, I think that's what you're referring to. What's called the Gospel of Nicodemus is, I think, very authoritative, and in general, I have no problem with the content. I think it's pretty accurate. It is a writing from the first few centuries after Christ, and it speaks to exactly what the Christians understood to have been the reality of what happened when Christ went to Hades, in the grave, so to speak, and he set the captives free, set the righteous free that were in Hades since the time of Adam, including Adam. He's one of the ones talked about in the book. So, to me, the Gospel of Nicodemus, both sections, Acts of Pilate and the descent into Hades or hell, very good pieces of Christian writing, Christian literature that should be read by, I think all Christians should read those writings, all of them. So it helps you understand something about the scriptures, the Bible, that you won't get in the Bible unless you're a very astute reader in the Bible. Unless you get every nuance and detail that's in the Bible about Christ's descent into Hades, you won't understand it unless you read the Gospel of Nicodemus, which it fleshes out so much. It's really good. So yeah, I do like that writing a lot, Deanne. So we've got a second on Shepherd of Hermas. That's a real possibility. That's a real possibility. Let's see. Looking up for him. It's good to see you. Yeah, good to have you this morning. Welcome back. All right. Let me write down in my notes here that the Shepherd of Hermas got some votes. I may do that one. I may do Shepherd of Hermas because it's not too terribly long, and it's got a lot of good information that the Christians, particularly to me, the Shepherd of Hermas is important because the Christians of the time valued it right alongside some of the New Testament writings. So there's obviously important things in there, right? There's different visions or prophecies about the church and how it would grow and how it needed to be built. There's also some very stark warnings in there for Christians as to how they should act and how they should live in the apostolic times and throughout history. So even for us, it's a very hard reading to read and then absorb all of it. It's very difficult in some ways. Very cool. All right. Well, what topics do we have today, guys, other than what we've talked about? I've got two topics. One I wanted to talk about and that I haven't mentioned to you yet, but also we've got one from Patriot on when Islam was founded, which we can definitely discuss. And then, so that's all I've got right now. What else do we want to talk about today? So one of you mentioned reading through Jude. Did we read through Jude recently? I thought we read through Jude recently. Did we do that? I think we read through Jude recently, but y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Please mention some topics that we can add to the pile. I've got lots of things in my brain I can talk about. I've got lots of things in my head that I could talk about. Any thoughts? Any things y'all have been reading this week that would be good for the whole group? Yeah, Patriot, you said you thought we did it on Christmas Eve or maybe New Year's. It was on some holiday. Yeah, I think we did. Red Raven, you say Father's Day, your choice. Well, here's something that I think it's the topic I wanted to talk about. It's not necessarily, it may be considered somewhat biblical. Westwind, you ask why I'm not drinking coffee. It's because I already had 2 cups and the pot was getting low. And so I just decided to drink some, I don't know, tropical juice, something. I don't know what this is. It's pretty tasty. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend with the no coffee. I mean, I know it's important to drink the coffee. This topic I wanted to just briefly mention, it weighed on me heavily as I was doing that new Sci-Cry video. It's called Who Will You Follow? You know, one of the themes of that song and the video that you will see if you watch that video is this theme of, in general, your reality, our reality, in many ways, kind of being torn apart. You know, and if we think about what's happening in our world right now, especially in America, now, I don't know, it may be happening in some other places in the world, but specifically in America right now, we have a situation where I feel like as I watch the landscape of media and pundits online and social media posts and people saying things, I feel like what I am seeing, have been for some time, especially since maybe late last year, is that this pendulum keeps swinging back and forth. You know, sensibilities and people's persuasions or their thinking is going back and forth and back and forth. It's like a pendulum, and nobody knows what to think anymore, right? Everyone's having a hard time now. Like, who do I trust? Can I trust that person that I listened to for 6 months? Because now they're saying something totally different. They're saying the opposite of what I just heard them say a few months ago. But that's what I keep seeing from all these different online accounts, all of them, and I know some of you I've talked with you about this topic, but it struck me as I finished that video last night, which that music video and that song that I go over there, it talks about this exact thing. When your reality breaks apart, who will you follow? And maybe that's what is part of what's happening in our world right now. And, I can't help but, if that is true, if right now things are happening in the world that will essentially force you to make decisions, force humanity to figure out whose side they're on. Are you really working with God in heaven? Are you working with Christ, the one on the throne? Or are you working with those who are against him? And that could be people, that could be political powers, it could be kings, it could be presidents, it could be, parliaments, it could be dark powers, it could be principalities. If you are on the side of anything that's against God or Jesus Christ, I think that right now people are being forced to make decisions. And as I thought about this yesterday, and I've just been mulling this over in my head, it feels to me like that is perfectly in line with what God wants for this world. Perfectly in line. Because what does God want from you and I? What does he want? With your life, just take your life from start to finish. God knows when your spirit is put into your body and you are birthed from your mother. He knows every step you're going to take. He knows what's going to happen. He knows the day that you will die. He knows every single bit of it. But what does he want out of you? What does he tell you in the scriptures he wants you to do? He wants you to follow him. He wants you to make the decision volitionally. He wants you to act within yourself to go after him and to tell others to do the same. That's what he wants. That's why he sent Jesus Christ. That's why he set up the church. Through history, we can go back to the first century and all the things we talk about on this channel, all the things we study. We're studying these writings. We're studying the New Testament so that we understand what Jesus Christ himself taught. So we understand what those people initially believed, uncorrupted, about the gospel, about Jesus and his Father, and how to serve them best. But what God did when he sent Christ and set him on the throne beside him in heaven after the ascension is he set up this kingdom that we now are a part of. He is waiting until, my dad and I were talking about this morning, the fullness of the Gentiles. He's waiting and he's pausing. He is literally in heaven figuring out when it is going to be that all those he wants are a part of his kingdom. And so, doesn't it fit God's nature perfectly to close to the end, close to the very, very end? And I believe that's where I think we are in history, is close to the end. Maybe it's in my lifetime, maybe it's not, but that's the thing. God gets to decide when that happens, when the end actually is. And wouldn't it just be perfectly within God's nature at the end to have these things happen in such a way in the world so that every human understands and is forced to make a decision on whether they're going to follow God and truth and justice and goodness and kindness and the fruits of the Spirit, those that were taught by Jesus Christ, or we have to decide if we're following someone else, something else. That to me sounds like it's perfectly within God's nature, and that it is where we are in history, that everyone is really trying to decide. Everyone is trying to figure out, who can I listen to? Who do I need to follow? Right? But every human that they're listening to online is slowly but surely failing them because of this pendulum that's swinging back and forth and is guiding everything. Now, if you don't believe that that's God's involvement, then I guess you're different than me, because I do. I see the hand of God in a lot of things right now. I see the hand of God pushing humanity towards a conclusion, towards a situation in which every human has to, number one, will understand who God and Jesus Christ are, but number two, will have to make a decision. And to me, it makes sense with what I've read in scriptures about, history is aiming at this conclusion where it says, until the fullness of the Gentiles come into the kingdom, things will wait. God's waiting until every last person that he knows will choose him does. And so to me, that makes perfect sense with what's going on. And I don't know, I just felt like talking about that this morning because it hit me so powerfully yesterday and today, this morning, as I was thinking about these things. So I just put it on our topic list, decided to talk about it. When reality breaks apart, who are you going to choose to follow? That's what we all have to do in this life. We all have to choose. If you don't choose, then you are going to be judged at the end. And I don't really want to be judged like that. You've got to choose Jesus Christ. So maybe this is the gospel message for this morning. We have to choose Jesus Christ and his Father, and we have to go down that path. The other path is broad. It leads to destruction for everyone that's on it. And I just can't help thinking that at this time in history, it feels like God is slowly closing the gate, but also giving everyone opportunity. It just feels like that, and it feels like God's nature to do so. It feels so right. So I pray that anyone in the sound of my voice hears that and knows you need to make that decision. You need to figure out, are you on the side of the one who created this earth and then sent his son to sacrifice himself perfectly to cover the fact that you have a problem, and that problem is that you're fallen, you have sin in your life. And the only way to connect you back to God was God sending his own son to do it, which he did. And there's a lot of amazing detail to what Christ actually did to procure that salvation for you. But you need to choose it. It's not something that's just going to happen to you. You can't ride the coattails of any family member or any priest or any leader anywhere. No other person can do that for you. It's for you to decide. You want to follow Christ. You believe in him. You believe in his Father in heaven. It's the only way you can be with him in the end. And I think that's what God is doing right now. See, he's getting ready. He's getting the kingdom ready. Christ is getting the kingdom ready, rather, and he's going to deliver it to the Father once it's complete. I just think that we need to be aware that the doors may be closing. So we need to tell others around us, and you, if you haven't made the decision, you've got to make it. Follow Christ and his Father in heaven. It's the only way. What do you guys think? Coffee talks. That's right, Westwind. Maybe I should have brought the coffee, but I feel like I've got the energy anyway. Good comment, Fastenal. I love it. Laura, you said we are no longer children tossed here and there, to and fro, by waves, carried about by every wind of doctrine and the trickery of men, craftiness of deceitful scheming. Perfect. Linda, you say, you find many don't want to even talk about God or Jesus. They change the subject or get squirmy and leave. Yes, But you see, that is what God does, and he allows it. He allows Satan to harden the hearts of those who reject him, so that they go down that path and they give up that knowledge of Christ and of God the Father. And every little step along the way, they reject him, and Satan gets more power over those people. But that is justice. That is spiritual justice. It's just, and that's correct. That if you continually reject God and Christ, it gets harder and harder for you. Period. That's how it works in this world. So, I mean, I hate that for those people. We do need to reach out to them. But at some point, they reject and they reject and they reject, and then Satan gets to have his way with them in the end. It leads to destruction. That's how it works. Westwind, you say, or you're responding to Red, you're saying it's so confusing. God knows everything. And through our action and prayer, we can change things. And he knows that too. Yes. You know, when I said that earlier about that, he knows when you were born, he knows every step you're going to take, and he knows when your life will end. I can't help but think that the way it really works is that he knows and has planned and can handle, because God is God, he can handle multiple outcomes for your life. Is that not possible? Is that not possibly true? You know, all these smart brainiac physics people, you know, scientists, what have you, they'll talk about quantum physics, and they'll say, oh, there's multiple outcomes for any one situation. Well, maybe, you know, maybe they're making some things up, but maybe they have some things nailed. Maybe God does have multiple outcomes for your life, and he understands them all, and he gives you the opportunity to choose which one that you're going to end up with. Is God not big enough for that? Is he not big enough to know and understand all of that? And to give you possibilities and let you choose? And in the end, he knows and always knew, but he had multiple possibilities for your life. It's possible. It's highly possible. We just, of course, never really thought about it that way, right? Generally speaking. Precurious, you asked this. I think it's a good question. Would I go so far as to say God is using the devil to awaken the masses? Discovering the lie back in 2018 or so is what woke me up back to Christ. You know, Precurious, I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. Does God use the devil to help people wake up? I think he might. And, you know, that's part of, to me, the pendulum swinging, right? Those of you who know my video I did on Katy Perry, during that album that I talk about in that video, Katy Perry Swish, she did a song in one of those two albums called Pendulum. I think intentionally. I think that the people who were running her at that time made her intentionally do that song because they knew this was going to happen. This type of situation where the pendulum's swinging. And yeah, on one side you have Satan and his followers, his minions, right now going way overboard. So far overboard. They have singers who get on stage and then dump blood on themselves and scream out to the pagan gods. We have cross-dressers teaching children how to act like the opposite gender that they are and be sexually promiscuous at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Satan is going so far, and his followers going so far overboard, that I think that maybe God is allowing that, using it, so to speak, like you're saying, Precurious, to help wake people up. So they're like, wow, that is not what I want to do. That's not what I want to be a part of. We have people still, and when was the quote, Summer of Love? What is it, like 5, 6 years later? We still have people randomly rioting in our streets, acting like animals. I mean, I can't even explain it anymore. Do they not see themselves on TV and realize, oh, we look like animals? We look like cretins who have no sense of civilization whatsoever. We look like animals. But yet, they don't see it, apparently. And yes, that pendulum swung so far that way, they will just do all this nutso stuff. And people are waking up. I mean, people with any sensibility are waking up, and they're saying, wow, I'd like to go back to God. I'd like to go back to what I learned as a child. That makes sense. That fits with life and gives me good outcomes in my life. God loves me. He wants me to take care of myself and those around me and treat each other with dignity, not act like animals in the streets. So yeah, I think it's a really good statement, Precurious. And I love hearing testimonies like what you said, that somehow God brought you back a few years ago. And praise God. Praise be to him, right? It's good to have you here. So good to have you here. What else are you guys saying? Looking up for him, you say, Micah 6:8, what doth the Lord require of thee but to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God? Yeah. Yeah. It's quite simple, but, in the noise, the cacophony of our culture, it's hard to see that, right? But when I go out my back door and I sit on my porch in the mornings and it's quiet and I see animals off in the fields, I can't help but think, those animals they're not worried. They're not anxious. As the Bible says, that they're anxious for nothing, right? Why should I worry? Why should I worry? God has my best interests at heart, no matter what's going on in the world. But most of that is just, it's out there, and we let it affect us. Chrissy, you've got a topic on the board for us now, so let me take that down. We can talk about that. What else are you guys saying? Patriot, you say, I got led to God because I watched Out of the Shadows documentary. I knew if there was something so evil there had to be something good. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great testimony, Patriot. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that message struck a chord with so many people. That was a great movie, Out of the Shadows. Yeah, I recommend it. I think it's totally free online. Anyone can watch it. Out of the Shadows. It's a good one. Laura, you say the Weimar Republic in Germany revisited literally 100 years ago. Roaring 20s in the USA. Huge reaction at the end of the decade. Interesting comment. Yeah. Well, I'll just say that what I see in this country, in our country, is we are going to revert and we're going to go back. It's going to be... Now, this is speculation on my part, but it's speculation based on evidences I see. I believe, and it becomes more clear every day, that our country is going to revert paths back to about 1980, 1985. And we're going to go back to a time in this country, in America, where it's going to be like that again, at least for the working class, the living Americans. We will not have the corruption that we do now, and it's going to be, in my opinion, in the next few years, going to revert back to kind of that time frame during the 80s. If any of you are sensible to the symbolism of the movies like Back to the Future, you know that Back to the Future was done by some people who were trying to represent a very dark, skewed timeline. And that was the whole premise. Good. So good. Did I freeze? Yeah, I just see now that my connection just went out completely. I don't know what happened. Well, I go on to some other topic. Maybe they don't like me talking about this one. I don't know. West Wind, you say, I see it happening. People trying to ditch their smartphones and even shopping for tube TVs and getting rid of their smart TVs. It is happening. And the thing that's neat about it, West Wind, and those of you guys listening, is that I see it in people, not in the politicians necessarily or the organizations. None of the church organizations, none of the big government organizations, none of the public programs or policies. It's not there. It's in the individuals. We are taking it back. We are doing it. So all I can do is encourage you or us or anyone, do what you know is right. Do what's going to make life better. Do what's going to make things good again. Be that person. Right? That's what we have to do. If every single person's doing that, what I've started to see is that there is no way that any organization or government or person out there, corrupt person, can stop any of that. If it's every person doing the right thing, they can't. There's no stopping it. It's unstoppable. It's unstoppable. Good morning, Terry. Good to see you. Yeah, Terry, there are cameras on some shopping carts in some places. That's scary. Oh, Linda, you said that it went out as soon as I said Back to the Future. Great. Well, I don't know why that would be. I don't know why. Russell Davis, you say Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. Yeah. We've got to do what we feel is right in this time and in this moment, and we've got to be more open about doing it. That's the point, I think, for all of everybody. We have to be willing to do what's right and be very open about it. We've all been, I think, conditioned by our society to be closed in and isolated from each other. And what I see is now people are starting to talk more to one another when they're out places and be more connected to those around them, more sensible to each other, more friendly in general. And so let's promulgate that. Let's push that sentiment. Let's be that wherever we go. Be open to others. Be friendly. Be helpful. When we connect more like that, there's nothing that can stop that. Nothing that can stop it. All right. Well, that was a great topic. I'm glad I talked about it. I hope you guys... There are some people listening, they're probably just like, okay, here we go. Chrissy, you say, Bible Scribe, what are your thoughts on the major push for data centers? Let's see. The major push for data centers, well, I have multiple thoughts about it. It's interesting to me that everyone is obviously fighting back against the data centers. I have two sides to my thinking on the data centers. Let me just, I'll change the topic since this is kind of, it's kind of different, if I can spell. What about these data centers that everyone's seeing pop up? Well, it's a function of the AI stuff, right? It's just a function of it. And you have all these different players in the field. We've got Microsoft, we've got Anthropic. By the way, interesting enough, I just saw a post this yesterday, a news post. So this is literal reporting. The Pentagon has come out and said that Anthropic's Mythos LLM, large language model, AI model, literally hacked into all the Pentagon systems at one fell swoop. And that's why the Pentagon and the government has come out and banned the use of that model. So at first I was like, why would the government ban the use of that model? You know, I didn't understand. But now if that happened, you know, there's a side of me that's like, if it can hack into our government, it needs to be banned, right? I mean, if we're at that stage of this game, it's getting a little scary. But you've got Anthropic, you've got Microsoft, you've got, what is it, OpenAI, you have XAI, right, Grok. And so all of these entities are vying in the space, and they're all vying partially for compute power. So I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I do know that part of me thinks that there's a few scenarios if you play them out in your head. Let's say that all the people who are protesting data centers got their way. Let's say across this country, we all stood up and said, no more data centers. No data centers anywhere. And so we shut down all AI research, and we shut down the power that drives AI. And then China comes along with DeepSeek and its models. And then let's say Iran has its models. Let's say Europe has its models and its stuff they're working on. Maybe the deep state and the Vatican have some AI models that they have hidden in the dark that nobody knows about, but they are also working. And so you have to ask yourself, what happens if we give up all of that power and all of the research and engineering that would protect us in case of someone else launching AI against us, and we put it all aside, and then we are totally vulnerable to all of it? See, that's one scenario. You say, well, where do you stand on that scenario? The other scenarios are, things about when it comes to some of these data centers, they obviously are making bad decisions about where to put them. To me, it makes the most sense to move them offshore or something where they're not taking our drinking water. You should be able to use salinated water just as well as you could use fresh water for cooling data centers. I don't know why there should be a problem with that. But maybe they could combine data centers with desalination plants, and then we could get some fresh water out of the process as well. That's another thing to think about, is just because you used water to cool a data center doesn't mean the water's unusable anymore. So I don't understand that part of it. People are protesting the data centers, but using water for cooling and then running it back into the environment shouldn't be much of a problem. Although, of course, the water would be hot, so you would have to build a retention pool so that the water could cool before it gets introduced back into the water supply. I mean, it just seems like there are some smart ways that all can be done. But, we as the public, our perspective right now is, I think, clouded by the years of abuse that we have taken from our governments, right? Our governments have run ramshot over us, over our farmers, over our water supplies and our communities. And so even if there's an altruistic reason for having some of these big data centers, the populace is sort of conditioned against any encroaching thing. And so we've got people all over the place protesting it, but I don't know if they're considering all the realities of where we are in the world right now. So I'm just throwing it out that maybe we don't have all the facts, and I personally don't know enough to say, yeah, I don't want any data centers. I don't think that's the right approach for America, to be honest. I think we have to have data centers, to be frank. So anyway. Yeah, Chrissy, you say putting a data center in a water deficient area is absurd. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's, to me, not an efficient use of the environment. It's not what you should do with a data center. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why they would do that. Chrissy, you are saying, or excuse me, Westwind, you say that people report that the water used for coolant on a data center is polluted after they use it. If that's the case, then that's not going to be a workable solution for anyone. I mean, they can't take all the water supply and then pollute it. That's not going to work. So I don't know. Is the sound back, or is there a problem with my sound? Some of you seem to be hearing me and others not. I don't know why my sound is being messed up. Rick says no sound. No sound. Let me try something else. Let's try this. No, shoot. Guys, I don't know. I will say I did try a different setup for my internet. Some of you say it's fine, others say it's dropping. I don't know what to do, because I did change my internet setup here at the house. But what I saw in my speed tests was that it was a lot better than it was last week or last time we did this. So I don't know. Maybe the data centers are sucking all the power and destroying my internet connection. Thank you, Laura, for the prayer. Please do pray that this goes okay this morning. I don't know what's going on. Let me see what's happening on my live stream indicator. Let me see what this says on the Google thing. Yeah, it says my bitrate is super low. Let me try something. Let's try this. Maybe this is better. I don't know. Let's see. That's so frustrating, guys. Let me see if there's let me see this. Let's see here. I might go. Let's see if this does any better. Let's see what happens here. How about now? Can you guys hear me at all? I got a thumbs up from Chrissy. Okay, well, maybe it's better now. I apologize, guys. I don't know. You know, that's frustrating. Let me. I gotta reset some things now because I changed my whole internet connection. Oh goodness. It can't ever go smooth, can it? It can't go smooth. There we go. Well, I don't know if that was because of my internet or if it was because of something else, but we'll see. Okay. Interesting. Well, I guess I'll check the recording back after this and I'll see where it all went out, where it all went bad. Maybe I'll have to re-record this whole thing and then release it as a video. Then it won't go out, right? Yeah. I don't know. Let's go ahead and do our next topic, I guess. Since they don't want us doing that one about data centers, let's do this topic. This was from Patriot. And Patriot, you asked when Islam was founded. Now, let me see if I can find your comment from earlier. You commented on it also. So let me see here where this is. it won't let me get back to your comment now, Patriot. Doggone it. Yeah, it's not going to let me get back to your comment on this. But you asked initially, you said, when was Islam founded? If it was around 476 to 536, it may be the devil's religion from the Little Season. So I'm trying to parse in my head all those parts of this question, Patriot. So as I understand it, and if you remember, I did that research on Islam for my Cataclysm of Rome Part 2 video, and that was a while ago, so I'm not remembering everything, but wasn't it the 7th century when Islam was established, the late 600s, if I'm not mistaken? Let me look for that online. Let's see here. I can show this. And we will go Islam. And I'm just going to hit the Wikipedia page because I think that based on my research, it seemed that, yeah, it says origin of Islam. So Muhammad supposedly got his message from the angel Gabriel. Was it Gabriel, I think? In Mecca in 610 AD. So that would be after the time frame you mentioned, after 536, which that's the year there was no sun or partial sun. It was dark for an entire year on earth that we know of, at least in the area of Italy and Rome. And everything died. Crops died. They couldn't grow anything. It was horrible. Scientists mistakenly call it a volcanic winter because they can't explain what happened at that time. But I believe it was part of God's judgment, Christ's judgment from heaven on the pagan nations. But the response from the world was that in 610 AD, the Byzantine emperor worked with some of the Catholic and Arabians in Mecca to build this false religion, and then they used Muhammad as their surrogate for this religion, their prophet. They used a young man. They got him to marry an older woman who was part of their plan. His wife, what was his wife's name? Khadija. Yes. His wife Khadija was like 20 years older than him. He's a young man in his 20s, and she is 40-something. Her family is connected in business and power to the upper elites in the areas of Arabia, and they connect with the Byzantine emperor of the time. They had meetings and decided that they would create this religion to unite the Arabs and build a fighting force for them to control the Holy Lands. And they did exactly that. And of course, over time, we see that exact thing happen. And even now, in the present day, I believe that Islam is more or less used by the Vatican to do its will. I believe that the Muslims are duped into believing a false religion. That's my personal belief. They are duped into a false religion that has been created by Catholics and the Byzantine emperor of the time. And these power-hungry Arabians that would do anything because they were upper class and they could get money for it. And so they established this religion, false prophet Muhammad. They forced this young man. He probably was the equivalent of an MK Ultra victim. They implanted essentially these visions and thoughts in his head. He didn't know anything. He didn't know how to read the writings he was given from the angel in the cave. He had to have Khadija's cousin translate them for him because they were complicit. It's a false religion. So that to me is the real story of Islam. It is a completely fabricated thing that has united Arabians under a banner that is controlled by the Vatican interests and the emperors of Rome. And that's just how I believe it is. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry for the Muslims, but you have been duped. There's only one God in heaven, and it's not named Allah. Allah was the name of a pagan deity in Arabia before Muhammad came along. And he had 2 daughters. And those were all pagan gods worshipped by the Arabians in Mecca and in other places in Arabia. So it is a shame that a third of the world has been duped into believing this false religion and a false God, essentially. But they need to shake off all the baggage of this false religion. They need to come to God the Father, who sent Jesus Christ, his Son, to save all men. Because in the writings I've read, the early Christian writings, even Arabians were starting to understand who Christ was and acknowledge him. And, that might be part of why the emperor of Rome saw this as a threat, and they started making these plans in the dark to subvert the spread of Christianity in Arabia and to build a fighting force, a controllable religious fighting force that could do their will around the world, but particularly in the trade routes between Europe and Asia. Why do you think Columbus came to America? Because all their trade routes were shut down by bloodthirsty Muslims. That's why Columbus came to America. It wasn't to find a new world. It wasn't for anything except to get away from the Muslims who were slaughtering people on the trade routes between Europe and the Far East. Don't let them teach you anything, or your kids anything different. It was all about the Muslims. So anyway, so what are you guys saying about this stuff? Let's see. Patriot, you said what I said was when Islam founded, because if it was between 476, 536 AD, it would be part of Little Season. Yeah, see, I guess, Patriot, I don't see a way that... I don't see that it was established before 536. Nothing in history shows us that. Like, we have no history that says that. We only have history books and records that show that it was in around 610 AD. So to me, that would have been after Satan was bound, according to what I understand from the writings. Satan was bound when Islam was founded. Now, that doesn't mean in the current time that if Satan is now loosed, which I believe he is, that he could use that religion, that power structure, for his purposes. He could. But he's done the same thing with parts of Christianity too, right? Parts of Christianity, Catholicism, parts of Protestantism, the ecumenical movement inside evangelical Christianity has watered down and destroyed Christianity from within. So it's not like, as I was railing on the Muslims for being duped into a false religion, many Christians have been duped into false religion. They've been duped into beliefs and practices that are not correct and not true to apostolic Christianity. So, we are all in that boat, really. It's the whole world that has been messed with. And of course, that's what the time of the deception of Satan is all about. The little season, he goes to the 4 corners and deceives the nations once again. All of them deceived. And that's where we sit in history right now, as I believe it. So to me, that's what all of that makes sense. The only way all of that makes sense, right, is to understand history this way. It all plays into it. Westwind, and you and Procurious were talking, you were talking about Jesus and what Muslims believe about Jesus. They do believe he existed. That's true. And many, if not most Muslims, as I understand it, would say Jesus was some sort of a prophet. And to be honest and fair, Christians should say Jesus was a prophet. However, that's not all he was, obviously. We shouldn't ever talk with a Muslim or someone who believes that and say, no, Jesus wasn't a prophet. That's incorrect. Jesus was a prophet, but he was the incarnate Son of God, Son of the Father in heaven. So that's the distinction. If you understand or realize that, you can maybe break through some of that noise for the Muslims. Maybe. I know that from what I've heard, many Muslims just won't convert because they are completely, satiated with their belief system built on Muhammad, right? And so it usually takes an act of Jesus Christ himself in their lives for them to come to Christianity, some vision or a dream or something happening that shakes them out of it because they just are locked into that belief system, a false belief system. So it's interesting how that works. Fastenal, I agree with you. We are blessed to be on earth at this time and see this stuff happening. We are blessed. It is amazing. Westwind, you say, God told Hagar Ishmael would be the leader of many nations, and you think that they became the Arabs. Yeah. According to everything I know from history or I've heard, I believe that is a correct assumption, and that's how everybody through history really understood Ishmael and the Arabs, was that was the lineage. So that to me seems right. Seems right to me. Laura, you said, if you look at Iran, the Aryans, that was those with a certain heresy that denied the Trinity. Interesting. Laura, what are you getting at there? I'm curious because, of course, that hits a chord with me. I've been studying Aryan philosophy lately and Aryan doctrine. Because it's honestly, the further I study Aryan doctrine, the more closely it resembles my own as I've gathered it from the scriptures. So I'm curious as to what you're talking about. You're saying there a lot of Iranians becoming Christians now, and they're having Jesus encounters that lead them to the truth. Millions are converting. Wow. Well, that's incredible. That's incredible. Red Raven, you speak of Ishmael. He will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man. That kind of feels like it fits. kind of does. Chrissy, you say you've heard modern day terrorist groups are designed by military intelligence agencies for an excuse to war against the countries they occupy, many formed and funded by Israel. Yeah, I know that's true. That is, at least at some extent, it is true. One thing that comes to mind is the white hats, or they call them the white helmets. This is a group, let's see, white helmets. You know about this group? The white helmets are this group in Syria. And the leader of Syria, or previous one, Bashar al-Assad, I'm not mistaken, isn't that the guy? Bashar al-Assad. Yeah, that guy right there. You've seen this guy before. He has been on multiple interviews through history. Like, he always says the same thing. He literally always says that the white helmets working in Syria, these are the ones that are always on the scene of every terrorist activity. They go in when there's the incubator babies or the attacks on children, and they take all the videos of children being, mercilessly, excruciatingly tortured by all these terrorists and stuff. He says that these guys are Mossad, that they were set up by the Israelis, and he can't stop them. Like, they are in his country, he cannot stop them. He has said that multiple times. So this type of thing is amazing. And, if ever there was a time where they wanted to shut my stream down, it seems like this would be the time. But Assad complained about these guys. So this, to me, is an example of what you're talking about. Was it Chrissy? When you're mentioning that. Yeah, that these terrorist groups are formed to destabilize countries, and it is intentional. The terrorist groups are not generally organic in any sense, especially the big ones. Because there's no way these organic groups could actually organize that broadly across regions and across countries. Hamas couldn't do that without support. And I believe they are supported backhandedly by Israel. So that's my belief. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but in some ways I believe it is totally true. So that's the type of thing, I guess I feel bad now for railing so heavily on Muslims earlier on, because they are duped like the rest of us. We're all duped by this type of thing. And it is coming out of the woodwork now. We're starting to understand it all, right? So yeah, praise God, it's coming out, right? An army of frogs against a pharaoh. I like that analogy. That's really good. Yeah, real McCoy, you are totally right. Israel seems to use this as a pattern. It's a pattern with them, right? That's I guess they did it once, it worked, and they just kept doing it and realized nobody's ever going to be able to stop us. Or at least that's what they thought, right? That's what they thought. But right now, Israel looks like the worst country on the planet to almost everybody else. Israel is getting it fed to them. They're choking it down. They're eating crow in front of the whole world right now on every front. And it's amazing to see. It's exciting to see. It's amazing. Laura, you're correct. They say that they use the Muslims as their broomstick to attack Christians. I do think that that's a quote, isn't it? I think that's a quote. I think that's true. That's true. All right. Let's go on to our other topic. Chrissy, you gave us. Let's do this. If I can get it on the screen, it's kind of it's a big topic. How do I put this on the screen? Let's see. Chrissy's topic of this, and I knew it was too big. 30. There we go. That gets it on there. That gets it on there. All right. Chrissy, you said judging others' actions and discerning fruits versus political correctness about not being judgmental. So let me think about this. Judging others' actions and discerning fruits. And I guess you're saying the good nature of that, like you're talking about a good thing, meaning being discerning about people and their actions and their fruits versus being politically correct about not being judgmental. I see what you're saying. Because Christians in general, we have this way of chastising people for being judgmental. Like, don't be judgmental on that. Don't talk about that thing they're doing or this or whatever, because who are you to cast the first stone? You point at them and there's 3 fingers pointing back at you kind of thing, right? And I think that you're getting at, that versus when are you supposed to discern about people's actions? Because it's important to be discerning about people, who they are, what they do, their fruits, as you put it. Let's look at the Bible verse about that. Let me see here. Their fruits. Matthew chapter 7. Let me put this on the screen. Matthew chapter 7, verse 16. Actually, starting in verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs or of thistles? So the statement there about men gathering grapes and figs and thistles, it gets confusing because we don't talk like that, but it's asking a rhetorical question. Do you get fruit from thorns and thistles? No, you don't go to thorns and thistle bushes to get fruit. He's saying that's how you'll know them, by the fruit you can get. Because when you go to a thistle bush or a thorn bush, you can't get fruit. There's nothing there. So he says, verse 17, every good tree brings forth good fruit. A corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, nor can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. So by their fruits you will know them. So that is some severe guidance for us on how we understand people and deal with people. I'm trying to think of, something's immediately coming to mind, and it'll get me into trouble if I talk about it, so I'm not sure I want to talk about it. But this is something I try to tell people in the current modern climate, cultural, political, world, global climate. You have to judge people, and not just people, but organizations, leaders, politicians, governments, by their fruit. Right now, if you judge Keir Starmer and the United Kingdom's government by its fruit is that the women and young ladies of England are being raped by Muslim migrants in the streets. People are being stabbed in the throat randomly by Muslims who want to create violence. Just for the fun of it. You see them stab someone in the neck and then dance around like, I did it. And so that's the fruit of Keir Starmer's government and how things are being run in Europe, in the United Kingdom. And the fruits of the government in France for a long time have been that, young, again, Muslim or sub-Saharan migrants are causing riots in their streets and destroying the city of France and city of Paris and other cities because they're uncivilized. They're horrible people. So that's the fruits, you see. We can apply that to governments as well as people. If you know people in your life, they can talk a big game. They can say all the things in the world that sound right. We could apply this to podcasters. You can listen to a podcaster for a whole year and they could say everything right. And they could say all these things that seem to make sense to you. But then in the end, if there's no fruit from that, have they changed anything? Have they made anybody better? Have they solved a problem? All the problems they keep bringing up, are they solving any of them? If no, then they have no fruit. If you're listening to a podcaster and they're saying, I don't want to get into specifics, but if they're talking about religion, but they're not leading you to Christ, if the podcaster or the pundit or the media is talking about religion, but they don't lead you to Jesus Christ and his Father and the truth of who they are, then they have no fruits. There's no fruit there. I try to bear the fruit of my belief and my relationship with Christ before you guys and before the world. Like I spent the first segment of this live stream today. Hopefully, it wasn't interrupted with the problems I had technically, but I spent that time giving the gospel, saying that you need to turn to God and his son, Jesus Christ, the one who died for your sins. That's fruit. So that's how we can judge everything in our lives, really. I do keep hammering that home when I talk to people about current events. Look at the fruit. Is it a good thing that's happening in the end? If so, then all the rhetoric doesn't matter. The rhetoric doesn't matter. All the feelings, all the angst doesn't matter. If in the end it is the result that is good and true and well-meaning for people, for countries, for others, then it is fruitful. And that's the kind of thing it's trying to teach us in Matthew chapter 7, verses 15 through 20. And it's helping us, of course, with the idea of false prophets. When you have someone that is false in front of you, the reason you know they're false is because they say all the right things. They sound really good, but in the end, nothing good comes from it. And of course, we've got a bajillion examples of that in politics, right? Barack Hussein Obama spent 8 years on the throne in America, and he did treat it as a throne. And all the things he did led to our country being worse and more satanic and more evil, promoting things like the transgenderism, LGBTQ, promoting the slaughter of innocent children in our country, sacrifices to Molech. On every level of measurement, according to goodness, according to truth and justice, he said all the right things and had zero fruit. In fact, his fruit was thorns and thistles. It led us down a path of destruction. That's how we can recognize who is good for us and who is bad for us in every sense. So, this is a great principle that can be applied very broadly, and it makes sense. By the way, I want to say, in a business sense, when you're dealing with people in business, when you're trying to make deals, move money, do stuff like this, it's important, no matter if it's small, I'm not talking about big stuff, but just like small things. The way you build trust with a person, right, is by fruit. I told you I was going to do this thing. I did the thing. It is good. It is just. It is pure. So that is the way you establish trust. People see your fruit, and they know that if they deal with you, they get the fruit of that labor. It's the only way you can do business with someone in an honest way. You have to find people that you trust. If you hear the words from their mouths and nothing ever comes from it, no produce, no increase, then you know they are a wolf in sheep's clothing. They can say all the right things. And then it's about how many times you're going to let them dupe you before you let them go, right? So that principle applies so many areas of life. So many areas. Chrissy, you said that you have two very carnal sisters who love the world, yet when I bring up holy living or Jesus Christ, they say they don't want to go to church or hear about the Bible because of judgmental people. Yeah, that's an interesting statement, Chrissy, and this is your topic. I definitely want to talk about this with you. That, to me, is a defense mechanism. So I think that Christians who do that, if they're Christians, I'm assuming, you said they claim to be good, or they have some, maybe they claim it, I don't know. But when they get pushed to the reality of it, like, hey, why don't you go to church with me? Why don't we read the Bible together? Why don't we talk about God or Christ? And they say, well, all that stuff's really judgmental and I don't need that in my life. That is a mechanism that they have found that they can use to excuse themselves from accountability for their life, right? Just like there's many other mechanisms that people will use for that same purpose. But you got to see past that, right? Because it's obvious it's a tactic. It's a shut you down tactic so they don't have to own up to the fact that, like you said, they live a carnal life. So that's what's being done there. It's a tactic. I'm trying to think, there's got to be a tactic we could use against that to say, look, you've known me. You could say to them, you've known me for how long? Do you think I'm judgmental? Now you've forced them to come to the surface with it right there in front of you. And they're either going to say, oh, no, you're not judgmental at all. Or they're going to say, well, yeah, you're judgmental and here's how. And then you can have the conversation. So I don't know, maybe that's a tactic you can use in those situations. Chrissy, you say that they accept everyone, even LGBTQ, because they say that's loving, and it's so frustrating. Yeah, that is hard. So they've been kind of drawn into that evil, deceptive narrative and convinced that that acceptance somehow equates to love and care and consideration, acceptance of deviant behavior, right? I don't know how to deal with that, because I haven't had to really deal with that up close and personal like that at this point. But I can only say that the only thing I can think of is to show them the destructiveness of that path. Show them other people. I would try to find. I've seen testimonies of people who went down those paths before. I believe Matt Walsh from Epoch Times did a documentary on, is it the What is a Woman documentary, maybe? And he has in that documentary interviews with people that came out of those beliefs, and they had already mutilated their bodies and things like that. And they've come out saying, look, I realize now that everything about it was wrong. And that kind of message, if that could only get to people like your sisters, if that could only get to them so they could see the outcome, the end game for those beliefs and that type of acceptance of deviance, it's destructive. It's obvious that it's destructive. The thing that bothers me about those conversations in general is that you can say to those people, have you seen the pride marches? Those people are losers. Like, from every measurement, put aside the sexual stuff, those people are degenerate and losers. They're exposing themselves in front of everyone. Do you see any other group of people doing that anywhere? Do the heterosexuals go out and have nude parades in Times Square? The reality is, no, you don't. Because that's the fruit of Satan. That's the fruit of the devil, is thorns and thistles. But I guess it's really hard to explain that to people who are steeped in it, right? They're up to their necks and they're swimming around dog paddling in the LGBTQ wokeness. And they're like, I love it in here. It's so warm and cozy. Sorry. Oh, gosh. Red Raven, you say working with trans kids is really difficult. They're brainwashed. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and kids aren't very rational either. Like, they haven't been taught to really think critically. So it's really hard to have a conversation with them that makes sense to them. All they know really is reaction. That's what they've been taught to do, right? Is when someone comes against your beliefs, you just react and be ugly back to them. And so that's what the kids do, right? That's how they react. Fasten all you You say, we all need to sit down for dinner and talk and enjoy each other's company. Yes, I'll grill. Oh, that sounds great. Where should we go? We got to go somewhere we can all get to. Y'all can all come to my house. You can all come to my house. Let's go. If my wife heard that, she'd freak out. She'd be like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Linda, you say the Ethiopian Bible says that Antichrist is a Jesus teaching the opposite of truth, and all will believe. Yeah, that is typically the kind of image of Antichrist that's given. A teacher that is sly and clever and seems to be in the best interests of humanity, right? But leads people down a secret deviant path that takes them to a place of enslavement. That's the way that the writings talk about the Antichrist figure when he appears. That's the way they talk about it. Real McCoy, you want my address? If we do that kind of thing, if we ever do something where we get together, I will get you guys what you need to do it. I will do that. I will do it. Chrissy, you say you warned your sister about pedophilia being the next step for pushing that envelope. It's just a lifestyle and they can't help it. That's how they talk about it. That's what they talk about it. that's why, now you see why early on, like when I was a kid in the 80s, and they started pushing the homosexual narratives, they started making that whole distinction of, oh, they're born that way kind of garbage. Nobody's born that way, by the way. Nobody's born that way. But yeah, there's a lot more to say there. But that whole garbage narrative was then taken and used again and again, all the way up the chain from homosexuality to transgenderism to pedophilia. So they just keep using the same narrative because they feel like it's hard for us to combat that, right? I'm born that way. No, you're not. You're born with these parts or you're born with those parts. And that's the way you were intended to be. And throughout history, thousands of years of history, that's always been the way it has been. There's no difference now. It's just that your brain is different and you're thinking that you're something other than you are. And that's ridiculous, as it always has been. Yeah, it's scary. Chrissy, your 3-year-old grandson is smarter than these people. That's good. Well, I think that's about it on that topic. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about today? We haven't gone real long. We have a little time. If you want to do something else, we can. What else do you guys want to talk about? Anything more biblical? I feel like I've been ranting a lot today, but it's good. It's good stuff. All the things we've been talking about. We did go through some scripture just then on that. I know it's cathartic to rant a little bit for all of us to get some things out. Air laundry. We can't air around everybody. Like you said, Christy, your sisters, you can't talk about stuff around them that they don't get offended or just clap back. And it's painful, right? To go through that. It's difficult. It's not easy. I understand that. So it's good for us to be able to air our grievances a little bit. But I'm happy to do one more topic if you guys want to go into something. I'm excited. I'm so excited about that rapture video. We don't have to talk about that, but I'm just going to say, man, my mind's churning, trying to think of what to talk about. I keep going back to some of that stuff I'm learning, but I know that, see you, Alvin. I know you had to leave on us, so that's fine. You have a great week. It's good to see you. If you're a father, happy Father's Day. Chrissy, you say the difference between swearing and profane language? That's actually a pretty interesting topic. Let me grab that. Oh, if I can. It's moving fast today. It's a good topic. What other topics? Fastenal, I agree with you 100%. These topics need to be discussed in church. And what we do sometimes here, this type of thing, I think is good for us. But, I guess you wouldn't consider this a sermon, right? But at the same time, we have to, at some level, address these things as a church, as Christians. Otherwise, who's going to? And where are we going to talk about it? When? So... DNK, you said something about the Embassy of Heaven. I don't know about that. Oh, Fastenal, you say you were a father, but he's with Jesus. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But he's in a better place than we are, so we don't have to worry about that. I was briefly chatting with my father about my mother this morning. She passed away almost, I think, 12 years ago. And I just said, she doesn't even remember this place now, probably, more or less. She doesn't remember much about it. She's not concerned with it anymore because she's in heaven. And that's the way your son is too. Yeah. It's... It gives you a lot of comfort to know that too. We've studied that when did we read that? Last week? We read that yeah, we were talking about what is it like in heaven, and we had that writing, the second apocalypse of John. We talked about what it said, that people, when they get to heaven, they start to quickly forget everything that happened on earth because it's so different, so new and wonderful there. So I would expect that my mother and your son have both forgotten this place. It's said in that writing, though, that we would remember each other. So, all the people we've lost, if they're in heaven, we don't have to really worry about them. It may be sad, but it's not sad for them. It's not sad for them at all. That gives me a lot of comfort for my mother because we do miss her. We miss her a lot. She died very prematurely. In terms of my children faintly remember her because she died when they were young. And so, it's sad to think about, but they have it so much better, and they don't even barely remember this. It'll be good. Let's talk, Chrissy, about your comment here about swearing and profane language. Let's talk about that as our last topic. The difference between swearing and profane language. Let's see if I can get this a little bigger. There we go. I guess what I could do is just start profanity. Let's do this. This is what I feel like is problematic when we talk about things like this. We look up words and we realize, wow, I don't think people use words the right way anymore. So when we look at the word profanity, the way it's described, let me do this. I want to do something else. I want to go the Webster's 1828 dictionary. And I want to search for profanity. So this is in 1826, what the word profanity meant. It means in a revel of debauchery, amid the brisk interchange of profanity. Oh, that's a sentence. Well, what's profaneness. Okay, so it's telling me I need to go to profane. Profane. Let's go to profane. So this is the root word, an adjective. Irreverent to anything sacred, applies to people. A man is profane when he takes the name of God in vain or treats sacred things with abuse and irreverence. That's interesting that it's essentially equivalent to the idea of taking God's name in vain. Because it is irreverence to something sacred, right? Number 2, irreverent, proceeding from a contempt of sacred things. 3, not sacred or secular, relating to secular things. So they will mention things like profane history, meaning secular history, not religious history. Or number 4, polluted, not pure. And again, in the context of this dictionary, 1828 Webster's, nothing is profane that serves to holy things. Even in that last description, it is in the context of religious or sacred things. So to me, that's the key of understanding when we say profane talk, profane language, profanity, versus just swearing, okay? And like, what do we call it? Curse words, right? Call it curse words. So there's a difference between all those things, right? I mean, the reason they say that saying damn is a curse word or profane, I think that you would generally say that's maybe profane if you were trying to describe it accurately. But saying damn, the way I was taught early on in my life was, when you say damn, you are condemning something. You are damning it, which means you are taking the place of God and sentencing someone or something to damnation, which is not your place or station. You can't do it, right? So in a way, perhaps that is a profane statement if you use the word damn. Now, in the case of the F word or the S word. I'm not going to curse on the live stream here. To me, those words are not profane, and it's because they don't have any relationship to religious or sacred holy things. Saying the F word is just sexually gross and ugly and crude, and saying the S word is referring to feces, which is disgusting and crude and gross. To me, those things are not profane, other than that they are very mundane, secular, disgusting things. They are crude. I wouldn't call them curses either, right? So you're not cursing someone when you say F that or this smells like S. You're not cursing someone. So we just have to define the terms. But on the other hand, those words, if I came up online every week and I used those words in front of you guys every week, every other sentence, like some people do online, F this, F that, blah, 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 you would have a lower view of me, wouldn't you? I mean, be honest. I would be not here. I would be down here. It would be viewed as lower, right? And it's because, I believe there's some history in the kind of English history of the language of England, English history, where those words were seen as words that were crude and mundane and used by more barbarian peoples, more uncivilized people, right? And so that sentiment exists today. No matter how much you try to get away from it, if you go around saying those words all the time, people mentally, subconsciously view you as less refined, less intelligent, and lower than people who do not use those words. Less smart, less intelligent. They see you as less intelligent for using those words. That's part of the reason I don't use those words. Another reason is that my wife gets really angry at me if I use those words. But I also see it as like a negative to use those words. That doesn't mean I've never said those words at all ever, but I don't like using those words. And I don't think they portray to other people what God wants me to portray to other people in this world. So to me, that's problematic. But I would say this, like if you're trying to gauge whether it's a sin to say the F word or the S word, I would say no, it's not a sin. And that's why when I'm out in public and I talk to someone I don't know and they start using those words all the time and maybe it's a part of their language, I don't immediately hold that against them. I don't let it affect me. I talk to them, I laugh along with them, but I don't use those words. And so over time, people, when they get to know me, they realize, wow, he really doesn't use those words. And I think that raises their opinion of me. And that's part of my intent with that. I intentionally do that. And I like it that way. So I think all those things play into this conversation. What are you saying, Chrissy? You got any other comments on it? You said that you had to tell your son when he was little that it was adult language, not bad words, because sometimes good people cuss. And when he's a grown-up, he can decide if he wants to use them. Yeah, I would say that. But I mean, I've told my kids too. I've told them, look, I don't think that you're sinning when you talk that way, but it's ugly, it's crude, and it makes you sound like an idiot. And I mean, I think they sort of got it. The problem is, though, that they grow up in a world, my kids grew up in a world where it's so commonplace now that it's hard to avoid. And so at some level, if you're out in the world, you're working secular jobs, you're doing all this normal stuff that you have to do, you're going to run across people that use those words all the time. It's going to happen. You're going to go online and you're going to pull up something someone sent to you and you're going to watch it. They're going to be cussing half the time. And you're just going to have to realize that there's a large portion of society that's the way they talk. But I will say that I still believe it's true. No matter how many of them are talking that way, they still know the difference when someone stands up and doesn't talk that way. Because they realize that they can use language, the English language, without using those words. I mean, to me, it's kind of the equivalent of the Smurfs. You guys remember the Smurfs cartoon? They used the word for Smurf for everything. And after a while, the word Smurf has no meaning, right? Well, that's the way some of these people sound. They use the F word or S or D or GD all the time, and it ends up meaning nothing. It means nothing because they use the same words for all sorts of different nonsensical meanings that don't have anything to do with the word itself. So it is obvious when someone does that they do not have a good grasp of the English language. That's a fact. That, if that's the only words you can think of when you're trying to talk, you need to learn some new words, or just start saying Smurf every other word. Just use the word Smurf. I think it's funnier anyway. Yeah, Linda, you watch your mouth. I'm listening. I mean, like I said, Linda, it's, we grow up in different ways with different proclivities, and we learn things as we go through life. So, I think it does make a difference. I think it's a good thing to learn to curb that a little bit. It's always a good thing. So that's all I'm saying. I don't look down at you anymore. Anyone who does that, I don't look down at you. But I wish you would change. I will say that. Like, usually when I am around people that are cursing a lot, I'm like, I wish you would not do that. Smurf it. That's funny. Oh, goodness. Some of y'all's comments are great. Yeah, Chrissy, Joe Rogan, he does curse. He curses quite a bit, yeah. But I mean, and to be honest, Joe Rogan grew up fighting, right? He was a fighter. He was around that stuff all the time in a situation where, and there are a few situations in life where if you don't curse, sometimes the people treat you poorly, right? Like in the UFC and fighting, I don't know, culture, whatever you call it. If you're not that forceful, sometimes I don't think people pay attention to you. There's some cultures like that. My son has told me that in the military, it's somewhat like that. Like if you are not willing to go off the handle like that every now and then and use some words, then nobody listens to you, which I think is the most sad thing I've ever heard. That's pretty sad, but that's probably the truth. So that's why, I can't hold it against people, but, I try to hold myself to a standard, and hopefully it shows. But I don't honestly think that anyone, by the way, no one's going to hell for saying any of these words that we're talking about. I don't think you're going to hell for any of it. God understands, but he does want his children to represent him well. So just think about that when you're in public. Just think about that. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to have, like Red Raven, you're kind of saying, I'd love to get everyone to stop using those words and to raise the level of language around the world. Let's raise it back up. Because honestly, if you're not aware, most of the cursing that we have in America started in England, which is odd because of what I told you about the history of the English language. Those words were not part of the English language before other groups came in, and they added those words because, anyway. But it's funny that pretty much the Europeans and English started using most of these words before they come over to America and got super popular in the last decade or so. Now they're super popular here, and it's a sad shame to me. I think it's a sad shame. But yeah, Terry, our president right now says a word occasionally. And, you gotta. I don't know what to say about that other than he seems like the type of guy that would do that every now and then. And I wish that I wish we could raise above that. I wish we could stay above that water line. And I wish our president could not only be doing good things for our country, but also be speaking with a level of maturity and reverence and honor and truth and justice, and everything was above board and all of that. But I think it will take time in this country to get that way. It'll take time in this country to get there. So let's just pray for the future in our country. But honestly, the times that he has used those words are times when he wants to get people to react to things that are bad. He wants to use those words. That's one thing you need to understand about people who are masters of language and of influence. Trump is a master of influence, and he uses those words to rile up his base against bad things because he knows they will. So, let's be honest. We're talking about genius level stuff at that point. Genius level. Now, that's a different ball game altogether. So, when you're trying to influence people, or cause them to act, especially whole cultures and whole groups of people, massive groups of people, that's something a little different too. So Terry, when Demolition Man comes true and we are just singing show jingles, I'd forgotten that was in that movie, Demolition Man, with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. That's a funny movie. I need to go back and watch that, because watching that now probably would be more funny than it ever was to me in the past. That's really funny. That's really funny. Demolition Man. That's some funny stuff. Well, guys, I think we'll close it up for today. Be on the lookout for the video on the rapture. It's coming very soon. And let's see here. Let me get this on here. Get the title. God bless you guys. I can't even type. What's wrong with me? But yeah, the rapture video is coming in the next couple days. It's going to come out. I just got to record the thing. I think, generally speaking, I have the whole thing scripted. I feel good about it. It's got a lot of good content. It's going to be a lot to edit, but I think in the next few days it'll come out, and that'll be really good. Enjoy the Sakurai video if you get a chance. It's only 7.5 minutes long. It was a short one, but it's good. And it's been great being with you guys this morning. God bless you all. I hope we've touched on some topics that were interesting to you. Kind of, again, I've been in the mood to freeform, haven't I, lately? We haven't gone by much of a structure, but I appreciate you guys, and I know that the topics that we talk about are things that everybody's thinking about. So just know that even just being with me and discussing these things back and forth like we're doing, we affect people throughout the week. We have hundreds that watch the live stream after we've done it each week, and I really am excited about that. But the things we talk about are important for everyone to be thinking about right now, and having a Christian response to these things. It's so important. Again, that's the way we change the world. We change it a little at a time with just people watching here and there, and seeing what Christians do. How do Christians respond? How are we taking what God gives us and then applying it to our lives? So it's awesome what we do. Thank you guys so much this morning. I've had a blast. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Get out there and do something for yourselves today. You guys take care. God bless. Bye.